Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ebb and Glow podcast. I'm your host, Jenelle Tremblett, and today's episode, it's just me. We're back for a solo episode to kick the new year off. I know a lot of people tend to love my solo episodes, and I like to tend to come on here every couple of months to just give a life update or just to talk about what I'm thinking, sometimes a rant. I don't think I've ranted lately. I'm sure I'll come up with something soon. And if there's any topics that you want to get my thoughts on, don't hesitate to let me know, because give me one glass of wine and my thoughts will come a-rolling. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening in Spotify right now, they actually have a new feature where you can rate the podcast. So give it a 5-star. It takes literally 1 second, and it means the world to me if you can do that. So thank you. I mostly just wanted to connect with everyone and tell you what's up with my life lately. And I also wanted to set the tone for 2022 and put out into the universe what I want and my intentions in this new year. So feel free to hold me accountable on any of that. And I'll probably have to do a check-in, maybe a 6-month or maybe end of year 2022 a check-in to see if what I'm asking for got manifested. Anyways, let's jump into this episode. So a lot's happened in the past month or so. Been a bit of a roller coaster with a lot of change. First, as you can see from the podcast title, I went through a breakup. Like I said, December was a bit of a roller coaster month for me. And it's kind of ironic how I host this podcast and tell everyone that vulnerability is powerful, but damn, I've been pretty resistant to do this episode because it's still a bit raw and real. Like, it hasn't even been a month yet since I went through a breakup. But yeah, it happened. And simply put, breakups suck. You can tell me all of the positive things about breakups and how there's positive linings and better things are coming and blah, blah, blah. Yes, sure. I believe that. I know that's true logically. But you can't hide the fact that overall breakups are not fun, and we can all agree with that. And it's even more sad when nothing monumental happened. There was no fight. Nothing really happened. Sometimes breakups just happen when you realize that you're just not the right fit. And when I think back to my past relationships and past breakups, it often gets to that point where you're so far into dating that you think, okay, do we go to like quote unquote the next step, or do we call it here? And I find like in my past relationships, that's often the conversation that happens. And this one was no different. And it's tough. My partner and I, we were dating for 2.5 years, which is a big, not big portion of your life, but a nice big chunk. And for me, I just felt that there was no progress being made in terms of talking about a future or next steps, or I just didn't see any forward momentum happening. And the more I thought about that, it was beginning to eat me alive. And that sounds very dramatic, but once you get a thought into your head, you keep seeing examples of it playing in front of you. And what I wanted the relationship to look like at that point wasn't exactly what my partner wanted. So simply put, there was a mismatch in what we wanted and our expectations. I personally wanted something a little bit more serious and to have that forward momentum, and he wasn't ready for that. And that's totally okay. The biggest thing I learned going through that breakup is you need to have those conversations. If you're feeling certain things and you're feeling like you guys are on a different page, you have to make that known, because it just starts to become a relationship that you're just going through the motions, and there's not much more to look forward to, and there's nothing that you're working towards. And for me, being the personality I am, and it's funny because he's that personality as well, we like to work towards things. We like to achieve things. But I found, and there's nothing wrong with this. This is just as big as my fault as his. There's definitely not just one person part of this. But I felt that we were individually putting so much effort into our own individual lives and our own individual careers and what we were working on. But by the end of the week, I personally felt that neither of us had enough left to give to one another. And when I look back, I have regrets about that, but I can't learn from that if it didn't happen, you know? So it's definitely something I want to be mindful about going into future relationships. But I mean, it is what it is. When I look back at when it actually happened, it was a tough decision, but I had to walk away from it, and we both had to walk away from it. It's so hard leaving someone that's been such a huge part of your life and then not having them be your constant support and constant companion and your constant communication anymore. It almost feels like you go cold turkey, and it kind of does in a breakup, but I mean, that's the risk you take. That's the consequences you take when you go through ending a relationship with someone. So I don't know if you've noticed the timing at all, but we broke up in December. And you might be thinking now, like, Jenelle, close to Christmas, isn't that the absolute worst time to break up? Yeah, it's definitely one of them. And it did not make things easy at all. It made things a bit of a logistical nightmare, but I don't think there's any good time to break up. You know, there's always going to be parties that you're going to mess up. There's always going to be a holiday coming, or birthdays, or, oh, we have this trip planned, so maybe then, like, before you know it, you're 5 more years into the relationship and you still haven't done anything about it. And you're just kind of going through the motions and just content, but not happy. And I can only speak for myself. Like, that's not what I want. So yeah, anyways, we broke up like right before Christmas. And the crazy part about it is my partner at the time was actually supposed to come meet my family for the first time during Christmas. And we had many conversations, like I said, about the future and how I felt that we weren't like moving forward and it wasn't going anywhere. And I felt that meeting my family while we were having all those types of conversations was kind of super counterproductive. So when we finally decided to break up, it was very amicable and it happened very quickly. But what stemmed from that was 2 weeks of logistical nightmares. I mean, you think if you're in a relationship with someone for a while, like during the holidays, you have so many parties planned with other couples or family members. And we had secret Santas organized where we had gifts and everything bought. And obviously I had to figure out all of the airline tickets and canceling them and returning money. And yeah. I'm sure a lot of you listening have been through way worse breakups than that, but it's such an interesting time to be going through a breakup because, you know, you're calling your families and kind of disappointing them. And then I know for me and my partner, we were more worried about disappointing our friends and family than we were disappointing ourselves. And I don't know if that's a testament to who him and I are as people, but the fact that we were about to stay together just to make everyone else happy is so messed up. And I'm glad that we didn't do that. I look back and, like I said, even though it hasn't even been a month, and it feels so much longer. I find that I'm the type of person that I busy myself with tasks to avoid any of my emotions. And so I call it a logistical nightmare, but going through all of those tasks probably helped me through it a lot. And even though the decision to end the relationship was very tough, I definitely believe it was the right decision. I mean, I wish him nothing but the best. He's still a part of my life in a friend capacity at a very limited amount, but I have no ill will, and I know he doesn't feel that way about me. Sometimes two people just want different things. You can chalk it up to right person, bad timing, but I don't know. I don't believe in that at all. I think if it's the right person, timing doesn't mean anything, and timing is really what it comes down to anyways. When two people want different things for their future, there's no point being together if those futures don't align. You know, it's pretty simple. When I think back, my ex added so much value to my life that I hold very dear to my heart. And I look back at the past 2.5 years with nothing but fantastic memories. Of course, it wasn't always smooth sailing. You're still a couple, you get into arguments. But even through those arguments, I learned so much about myself and learned a lot about relationship lessons that I will absolutely be taking into future relationships. I'm really proud of myself for being honest about what I wanted and not willing to spend another day with anything less than that. And I'm sure of myself enough to know that I know love and a future long-term partner is possible for me. And honestly, I look forward to what's to come in that area of my life this upcoming year. So as it tends to play out in my life, if that wasn't enough to go through in 1 month, let me add one more thing to it. In the same month, I decided to move apartments. And yes, I moved in the month of December, which is a very cold month to move. So to add more stress and messiness to a breakup, I also moved to a new apartment a few days before the breakup. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because I'm reminiscing back and being like, oh my God, like sometimes I feel like a sadist. So picture this. I move into basically an empty apartment since I had to buy a lot of furniture, and also to a very quiet part of Toronto. Before this, I lived in a very busy area of the city where there were sirens non-stop. I've never heard so many sirens in my life. Let me say that this new apartment, I've lived here for a month now. I haven't heard a siren yet. I actually swear to God, I feel like I live in a different city, and it's so nice. No shame on where I lived. It's actually a fantastic area. There's definitely cons to where I live now too, but the sirens would always get to me. It's very first world problems, but I felt that my cortisol levels were at a constant high at all times. And yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. I just longed for something so quiet, and that's exactly what I got. So again, picture this. A few days after I move in, I go through a breakup and lose a person that's a huge constant in my life. And I say lose isn't the right word. I mean, it was a discussion. We both agreed that it was best to move on. So I'm definitely not the victim by any means. So anyways, I'm there sitting in an empty apartment, so damn quiet that you can hear a pin drop at any given time. And the only noise is the thoughts in my head. During those couple of days, I probably would have taken the sirens back. So I ended up being in a perfect environment for a lot of crying and questioning whether or not I made the right decision. But I will say that didn't last long. The one thing I did immediately after the breakup was fill my calendar with social events. It really helped that we were going into the party season of the holidays. So between work parties and seeing friends for Christmas get-togethers, I managed to surround myself with a lot of my friends, which helped me through all of my emotions and doubts. But it's really cathartic having an ending and a beginning at the same time. It makes you get excited about the newness and the restart and the possibilities. Living on my own in Toronto was a dream of mine since I moved here, and I've lived here for just over 5 years now. And while that seems like a strange goal, if you know the prices in Toronto, you'll know that you need to be at a higher income level to sustainably live alone. So after changing my career last year and working in real estate, I was able to afford what I wanted. And that's not a flex by any means. I'm very proud of myself. I had to make a lot of changes in my life to kind of get what I want and what I have today, and I'm very proud. Yeah, so as a realtor, I was always looking at condos. Obviously, I'm in and out of these all day long, so I knew exactly what I wanted, but my criteria was very random. Like very specific and very random, and that leads to there not being a lot of options to even choose from. Like, I mean, I was in beautiful apartments all the time, and I still am to this day, and I could have lived in any of them, but I thought to myself, if I'm going to increase my rent this much, it has to be exactly what I'm looking for, and it has to be somewhere that I want to stay for a few years. As fate would have it, exactly what I wanted came available around the end of October, and I jumped on it. So, like I said, having the goal of my own apartment is definitely a materialistic thing, but I already feel like I'm in such a different mental state and calmness. And I know this change is going to bring so much value to my life in other ways that the increase in the monthly rent cost is going to be so worth it. So at the moment, my apartment is still a bit barren, partly because I'm picky about what I want furniture-wise, and I tend to do a lot of research before finally purchasing something, especially when it comes to furniture and decor. And I'm kind of liking taking it slow. There's a part of me that really wishes that I had it all together and I could have people over right away. And I mean, I still can, but I definitely don't want to have like a bigger get together until I have it fully put together. So until then, I have some furniture coming in the next couple of weeks and we'll see if I keep it. I've bought a few things recently. I don't like any of it, so I'm sending it back. So it'll eventually come together. But I'm looking forward to the next few months and obviously years turning this condo into my little oasis. I actually named my Wi-Fi Hotel Jenelle because that is the vibe that it feels like here. And even after a month of living here, I still have to pinch myself that it's mine. And I want to cherish that feeling of gratitude because simply put, I am so gracious about this change in my life. And I'm excited for what's to come. Eventually, I'll share some pictures and stuff once my decor is all figured out. And let that be a reminder to you that if you have these random, weird, guilty, materialistic goals that you want to hit, don't feel guilty about them. Like if you are working your ass off for a promotion so you can get a purse that you want, who cares if that's what's going to get you there? For me, it was I wanted to be able to live on my own and have a really nice apartment, and working hard and now knowing I have to keep working because obviously I have to pay for it is the motivation I needed. And I'm glad. I'm really glad. So after talking about the two biggest changes that occurred in my life at the end of 2021, I want to talk a little bit about what I want in 2022 since we are in a new year. So I tend to do New Year's resolutions and goal setting a little differently than most people do. The first thing I always do is I pick a word or a theme of the year. And this year I decided my word is consistency. So then I pick some key areas of my life I really want to focus on. And this year for me, the areas will be career and relationships. And then the next step I do is I set quarterly goals in all aspects of my life. The reason I do it quarterly is our life circumstances change so much. What I want to achieve in January may be vastly different than what I want to achieve in September. But if in September I'm still living my life based on goals I set 9 months ago, then that's not really productive. And maybe this is from my years of being in the 9 to 5, but I like to treat myself like a business and I like to do things quarterly. So the main areas of my life are real estate or my career, my podcast, and then personal. So like relationships, financial, just like personal goals. So each quarter I list out a few goals in each of those categories that I want to focus on for the next 3 months. And then in April, I will readjust or take away and add ones. I'll just edit them. That's what I did, I think, 2 days ago. And I don't do anything crazy. I actually use Trello as a master planner to kind of plan my life. And I also use Trello for real estate, kind of as my CRM, as one of my CRMs. I used to. And then, so yeah, in Trello, I kind of made a bunch of notes and it almost looks like as if I had it on like a whiteboard. But I like to keep everything digital just because it's always with me when it's on my phone. So yeah, so I put all of that in Trello and I just listed things out, and then every quarter I will edit accordingly. So let's chat more about my word of the year, consistency. And if you didn't read my Instagram post, to give you an idea of what my words have been in the past. So for 2021, my word was alignment, and my focus in 2021 was getting aligned career-wise, getting aligned with kind of anyone that I interacted with. And I was constantly editing my life. And I want everything to feel like an alignment. And I want it to feel that everything I did and everyone I associated with was someone I want it to be. So that's how my word played out that year. The year before that, in 2020, my year was up level. And I took a long, hard look at my life in 2019. And I wanted 2020 to be all about up leveling my life, whether that was skills. And I mean, I had a big career change in 2020. I had changed careers and I just wanted to learn a lot of things and just increase my skills and just up level my life as a whole. So anyways, back to 2022. So yeah, the word of the year for me this year will be consistency. And the word is mostly to do with career, as the nature of being in a real estate sales career, everything is all about consistency and doing a little bit every day and sticking to those habits. I don't know if you've ever read The Compound Effect. It's a really fantastic book. And what it talks about is doing small amounts every single day. And that's all of a sudden when 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road, you'll see, oh, wow, like all of that constant effort and good habits really compounded into something huge. It's the same way compound interest works, the way your habits and consistent effort works as well. So that's very important in a real estate career. So that will be one of my biggest focuses this year. How that will look from the outside is you'll see a lot more from me in terms of building my personal brand in real estate. I want to be creating a lot more content. I tend to hold a lot of knowledge in my head, but I want to be very gracious in sharing that knowledge with others. So you'll probably see some video content from me a lot this month or the next couple of months. Obviously, that'll change as the year goes on, but I want to be sharing a lot more about what it's like behind the scenes in real estate, the condos I look at, and also just sharing knowledge about the market in a more usable form. On top of that, I also want to be diving into reading a lot more sales books and just learning the art of sales a lot more. A lot of sales definitely comes naturally to me, but like anything, like any type of muscle that you would build, I want to build that sales muscle and really understand the psychology and art of sales. Consistency is also going to play a big part in working on this podcast. I've done a great job, in my opinion, on consistency with it so far. This week is episode 65 of the podcast, and I want to continue that on a weekly basis. Even though real estate tends to get really busy sometimes, and sometimes I can scramble to get an episode out, but I don't want that to ever ruin the consistency on that. When I think about the podcast and where I want to take it, I do have some big goals that I want to achieve in 2022. One of the biggest things is I either want to join a podcast network or hire someone or some people to help me grow it. I know that in order to grow this podcast, I cannot by any means do it alone. There's just not enough hours in the day. So I chatted a lot about career aspirations and my focuses there. But as I said earlier, my other main area of focus in my life this year will be relationships, mainly romantically, but also friendships and business as well. After going through a breakup and realizing what I wanted in life, plus what I was doing every day in my relationship was not really aligned whatsoever, it definitely made me rethink what I wanted and my intentions in terms of the romantic part of my life. I'm historically extremely independent. I am an only child, so that has a lot to do with it, but I tend to be very independent in my relationships as well, and almost sometimes to a fault. There's definitely a lot of positives to having an independent life within a relationship, but I tend to go a little too far sometimes, and I tend to focus on myself a little bit more than I tend to invest in other people. And going into 2022, I definitely want to change that a little bit. Definitely not to the other side, but I definitely want to balance it out a little bit more. I'm getting to the point in my life that everything I'm building in my career and life, I want to start sharing that with someone. I've dated a lot and I've been in multiple serious relationships, but I can say honestly that this is my first time where I'm thinking, yeah, I really want a partner to share all of this with and enjoy life with. Now, that being said, this past week has been also a bit of a whirlwind that it'll not be talked about in this episode. Definitely save that for another one because I'm still going through it. But I've learned a lot over the past week or so that I've realized that I have a lot of inner wounds to heal and negative patterns that are causing me to sabotage romantic relationships. And I've only recently become aware of that. And I've been very introspective the past 24, 48 hours. And I'm seeing a lot of patterns that I really don't like about myself. And if I want to call in a more serious romantic relationship in my life within this year, I have some shit to clean up. As I always say, romances and dating tend to be a mirror reflection into what we still need to heal. And holy hell, my mirror is cluttered right now. My mirror looks like a hoarder of shit that I need to deal with in my internal life. Yeah. I've made a lot of mistakes in dating and have grown tremendously from them. And while I thought I was in a good place, this past week has taught me that nope, there's still a lot of inner work and healing that I need to do. I'm realizing after doing some initial research and some journaling and doing some more introspection that I may or may not have issues with abandonment and rejection. Those are kind of the buzzwords that I'm resonating with right now. And after reading stories and reading paragraphs and doing my research, that's the stuff that's resonating a bit more, where I'm like, oh yeah, there's something there. And I'm definitely dealing with like some past insecurities and jealousy issues that I really need to sort out. And I have to say that I do not believe that you have to be perfect before you go into a relationship. I find perfect people very boring, actually. But I think as we're getting older, I mean, I'm 28, turning 29 next year. I'm at the stage in my life where I need to take some ownership for the shit that I bring into relationships. And I'm never going to get the love and relationships and friendships that I want unless I start actively cleaning up that shit. But I guess the first step is being aware of them. I mean, I mentioned my actions have been a negative pattern, but in the past, I had zero intentions or maturity or any self-awareness about how my actions and behaviors affected other people. For anyone who doesn't know me, I can tend to be a human hurricane sometimes, and the wrath of Jenelle can be very destructive sometimes for me and the people around me. And not proud of it, but going into this new year, I intend on doing the work to heal all of that crap. And I hope consistency plays a huge part in that, because I consistently want to get better at that and make some big changes. The quick changes I've been making already and how I've started to make those changes is I'm dipping my toes a little bit into the idea of meditating and journaling. My new quiet condo helps a lot with that, but I can definitely see how people have made big strides in their life from doing those things. So let's see. I've only done one day of it so far. So I also plan on being intentional with the books I'm reading to understand where these fears and insecurities are coming from. I have a feeling it's going to be a bit messy and eye-opening, but I know deep down that the growth that will come from it is worth the pain of going through it all. It's funny, I don't know if you've ever seen on Instagram, I find that it always comes up like a few days before the new year, where it's like an Instagram post where it's like a mishmash of words, and it says whatever 4 words you see first, that's going to be like what's going to happen to you in 2022. And of course, these are just like click happy types of posts, but I always like them. I'm just like, oh, whatever. I'm sitting here scrolling, like what words do I notice first? And the 4 words that came up for me was breakthroughs, health, money, and miracles. And I don't know, call it woo-woo, call it reading too much into it, but I can see that happening. So yeah, with saying that, by the end of 2022, I want my real estate career to be flourishing, and I also want to be in a healthy, committed relationship. And I feel a little bit awkward saying that. Like I even like kind of hesitated, as you could probably hear from my voice, but I have to put stakes in the ground that this is what I want, and I'm willing to do the work to call it into my life, and we'll see what the universe conspires for me. So I hope this episode gave you a bit of insight into my life lately. I always want to be honest on here about what I'm going through, because God knows my life is far from perfect. If you haven't thought about what you want in 2022 yet, keep it simple. Just think, how do you want to feel in this year? Pick one word or theme and then write it down somewhere where you always see it, whether that's on a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror or maybe the screensaver on your phone. Keep that word as the theme of your year top of mind, and you'll watch how your actions and your intentions change when you have that word top of mind. So there you have it. The solo episode with some life updates from me and also what I want in 2022. I will continue bringing these solo episodes to you anytime that I feel like I have value to give or updates to give. And we know this episode was a lot of updates. So Here's to wishing everyone a year where the universe conspires for you and gives you the life of your dreams. As a reminder, you and you only have the power to create the life you want, so go out and start creating it. Until next time.